Hi everyone, it's Steve here from Ziptales. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we have Richard McRoberts with us. Now, Richard's the director of Ziptales. He began as a teacher, then became an educational author with dozens of titles to his name. He is now content director and publisher at Ziptales. Richard's here today to talk to us about teaching persuasive writing, a key text type that all children need to master, and one of the two possibilities and possible options for the NAPLAN test. This webinar offers an explicit analysis of the type and suggestions for practical activities to follow up the theory. This webinar will run for around 30 minutes of content and demonstrations, followed by questions and answers. If you have any questions along the way, we invite you to ask them using the text chat box over to the right-hand side of your screen. So Richard, take it away.
Teaching persuasive writing. The importance of persuasion. That persuasion is a vital force in human life cannot be doubted. Some 2,500 years ago, the famous Greek general and politician Themistocles said, "I have two gods who beg me to obey them, persuasion and compulsion." He meant, of course, that we can attempt to control life either by argument and logic or by force. He should know. He was considered the saviour of Athens because he convinced the people to build a bigger navy and thus defeat the Persians. Athens, the birthplace of democracy, is celebrated as the first place in the world where the common people were able to decide policy freely on the basis of reasonable argument. Persuasion is not just a big deal in school, it's a big deal in life. Let us consult another celebrated Greek, Aristotle, author of the first ever study of persuasion, the treatise Rhetoric. He said, "In making a speech, one must study 3 points. First, the means of producing persuasion. Second, the language. Third, the proper arrangement of the various parts of the speech." In this webinar, we'll deal with all three: the techniques of persuasion, the language to use, and how to structure the presentation, whether in speech or writing. Why teach persuasive writing? Because it is an essential skill. That is reflected in the Australian curriculum, where we read, "Plan, draft and publish imaginative, informative and persuasive texts demonstrating increasing control over text structures and language features." That's an example from Year 3, Literacy Creating Texts. The New Zealand curriculum writing standards for years 1 to 8 states, "Students will independently write texts for a range of purposes across the curriculum that include recounting, describing, narrating, reporting, arguing and explaining ideas and information." That's level 3. Here's an overview of the webinar. Key terminology, the logic of persuasion, what makes an argument work, the engines of persuasion, logos, ethos and pathos, structuring a persuasive piece, persuasive devices, rhetoric, metaphor, etc., do's and don'ts. Key terminology, the main terms. One of the beauties of English is there can be so many different words for the same thing, but that also leads to some confusion. When we use the terms argument, persuasion, opinionative writing, exposition, discussion, we are circling around similar text types, but there are key differences. Argument, persuasion, and opinionative writing put the emphasis on promoting or advancing an opinion. For example, too much TV is bad for children, or regular exercise is good for the health. Whereas exposition, exposing or laying out a subject for others to understand, and discussion, an open-ended discourse on a topic, recognise that there are multiple viewpoints and acknowledge them. Example, TV can be good. There are, however, also some risks. Another example, exercise is useful, but it is possible to hurt yourself with sport. My assumption is that exposition, teacher or student-led, and discussion, a flexible dialogue about interesting topics, is the foundation of most class oral work. Teachers are experts in these matters. However, the finer points of argument, persuasion, or opinionative writing need to be directly, indeed explicitly, taught. If it was enough of an issue for Aristotle 2,500 years ago to merit analysis, we can't expect children to grasp the rudiments by intuition. How can you tell if it's an argument? Simple test. Do I agree with what is being proposed? Do I disagree? It doesn't matter which you answer. If you can say yes or no to the proposition, you are looking at an argument. Argument text types. Although the concept of an argument stays much the same, the forms in which it can appear vary. Here are the most common. A public speech by a politician or other public figure, an article in the paper putting forward a point of view, an editorial or opinion piece or column, an essay in a magazine which argues something, an advertisement, either in print or on TV, radio or the internet. So some suggested activities. Here are some simple propositions. Hands up to show agreement or disagreement. Boys are better than girls. My city or town is the best. Children should do more homework. Smoking is bad for you. Zoos are a good thing. Children should not wear uniforms at school. Or brainstorm the sorts of things people argue about. Write these on the board. What do children think of them? Agree or disagree? Select one or more media examples of argument, a newspaper piece, an ad, etc., to show what the different forms look like. What is an opinion? How does it differ from a fact? The logic of persuasion. So what is an argument, or persuasive or opinionative piece? It is founded on three interlocking sets of data. Here they are. A, the contention, or proposition or thesis or claim or statement of opinion. B, supporting reasons. C, evidence for those reasons. It helps to think of an argument as a logical pyramid. Have a look at the picture and you'll see what I mean. Contention, reasons, evidence. What is a contention? The contention, the proposition to which you can say yes or no, is just the banner or title. It is not the argument itself. The internal logic, or the proper arrangement, as Aristotle might say, is the key to a good argument. The contention should be a call to action, something people should do about the problem or issue. For example, children should do more homework. This statement proposes that the audience do something. The contention must be strong and clear. Children need to be taught to avoid statements that are unclear or have no call to action, like, the environment is a mess. It's a statement, not a contention. Bullying is common and not very nice. It's a statement, no call to action. I don't like fast food. A statement, not arguing any action. What are reasons? Here it is useful to set up a simple lesson on the concept of cause and effect. For example, lightning produces thunder. Speeding produces accidents. Bullying produces unhappiness. The first element, the cause, leads to the second element, the effect. Children must grasp the need to show that an event or phenomenon, A, the first part, leads to an outcome, B, the second part. A causes B, or B is the result of A. So, for example, reasons, referring back to the homework issue. 1, there isn't enough time at school, so working extra hours is necessary. 2, my parents can help me one-on-one. 3, the routine of work after school will help me prepare for secondary school. 4, repeating what I've learnt at school after hours helps the learning stick. 4 reasons supporting the contention. The reasons must be logical and show a demonstrable connection. Children should be taught to avoid silly ones like, children should do homework because it's good for them. No explanation of why. Schools have always set homework. A statement, not a logical argument. Or, I don't like homework. Not a reason, an opinion. So what is evidence? Evidence literally means what we see to be true. It comes from the Latin, out of seeing we believe. Evidence is data which proves or disproves something, ground for belief. Proof. For example, Evidence for the homework. Evidence for reason 2 of what we're talking about. So reason 2 was my parents can help me. So evidence. Mum was good at reading and can help me with my reading homework. Dad is good at maths and can help me with that. My older brother loves science and can explain things. My auntie is a teacher and she can give me help. Here teachers need to talk about the concept of authorities. I'd start with simple ideas like, who is in charge of this school? Why? The idea of trust can be helpful too. Whom do we trust? Why? Who always tells the truth? At this point, you'll need to revisit the difference between fact and opinion. As to the types of evidence, the following are worth showcasing. Facts and figures from reputable sources. Explain what these are. Give examples of kid-friendly data. Quotes from experts. Give examples. Reports from government bodies, for example, the CSIRO. It is worth also pointing out that some sources cannot be relied upon, such as dodgy websites, you'll have to explain, other people's opinions, what people on TV or radio say. An argument is a logical construct. The contention, A, is supported by the main reasons, B1, 2, 3, 4, etc., which are themselves supported by the evidence for each reason, C1, 2, 3, 4, etc. In the Ziptales Write Time lesson on argument, how to write an argument, we use the analogy of a tall tower. Only with strong vertical supports will the argument stand up. The evidence is the foundation of the argument. It is crucial that children understand this ground-up principle, the need for a foundation of evidence at the base, which support the reasons, which in turn support the contention. Suggested activities. Here are some. Here are some simple statements. Are they contentions? How could they be turned into proper contentions? Healthy lunches are a good thing. Playing sport is excellent. I hate bullying. Anger is dangerous. Another activity. Given the following contentions, what reasons can the children brainstorm? Children should eat healthy lunches. What reasons? Sport is good for you. What reasons? Bullying should be banished. Anger needs to be kept under control. And finally, select one of the contentions above. What are some types of evidence that would work to support them? Let's talk about the engines of persuasion. Aristotle listed 3 persuasive theorems, and they're quite famous. They are logos, use of logic or reason, data, statistics, the idea being it's true because it's logical. Ethos, believing because you respect someone, credibility, authority. And finally, pathos, the use of feeling, pity or sympathy, narrative, empathy. Most people think of argument as being all about logos, right thinking, logic. And it's true that logic is essential. Without logical proofs, an argument will dissolve. That's what we've been examining so far in this webinar. But people are persuaded by more than just logic. All teachers are familiar with the now famous TED Talks, Technology, Entertainment, Design, Ideas Worth Spreading. One of the most watched talks was by American civil rights lawyer Brian Stevenson, who incidentally appeared on the ABC's Q&A in February this year. His talk, We Need to Talk About an Injustice, which attracted the longest standing ovation in TED history, watched by over 500,000 people, was subsequently analysed for its content, using Aristotle's theories. The results? Brian spent 10% of his talk on ethos, which means basically his credentials, his authority. Brian spent 25% of his talk on logos, the logic, the facts, the statistics. But Brian spent 65% of his talk on pathos, appealing to people's emotions. Principal among these were his stories about growing up poor and black in the South, about his grandmother, about the people in prison he represents, and so on. His stories were particularly effective. Laboratory research using MRI have demonstrated that stories light up parts of our brain. When we hear someone sharing a story, listeners or readers sync up. A leading researcher calls it brain-to-brain coupling. It is, if you like, data with a soul. Sir Ken Robinson, the British academic whose 2006 talk has attracted 14 million viewings, the most watched TED talk ever, connects his thesis that schools should do more to encourage creativity in children to a series of anecdotes, mini stories. He uses humour, a known way of engaging with an audience and getting them on side. These talks, both of which I recommend, are not, however, for children. You wouldn't show them to the children. They're too adult. They are, however, so good that all teachers should watch them to warm up their understanding of what makes a good speech. What can we take out of Aristotle's prescription? It is that there are multiple techniques that need to be discussed. A piece of writing or a speech that can credibly use logos, facts and figures, logic, reason, and ethos, appeals to authority, and pathos, human stories to illustrate a point, will be a winner. So some suggested activities. Take a topic like let's banish bullying and talk about how logos can be applied. What are the statistics on bullying? Why, objectively speaking, is bullying a bad thing? What harm does it cause? Then take the same topic and talk about how ethos can be applied. Who, in a position of authority, has spoken out against bullying? How many books are there on the subject? And finally, take the same topic and talk about how pathos can be applied. What are some sad stories about how bullying hurts people? Are there any well-known books or films about bullying? Try and emphasise the feeling aspects of the topic. Now, structuring a persuasive piece. Because an argument is so dependent on logic or structure, the proper arrangement, the writing itself must be carefully controlled. The classic structure of a persuasive piece is as follows. Introduction. The topic is announced in a striking way. An overview is given of the major reasons for proposing it. I'll just quickly read this. A lot of people think that homework is bad. They say that it's hard on children to have to work at home after a long day at school. But in my opinion, homework is really useful. The topic sentence, the statement. Schools that have a no homework policy are actually putting their kids at a disadvantage. Let me explain why I think this. The next thing is the paragraph about reason 1, with detailed evidence. The first reason is that there isn't enough time at school to do everything. School goes for about 7 hours a day. Teachers have to teach children English, maths, history, social studies, art and all the rest. Even if they work as hard as possible, there aren't enough hours. Take reading. In literacy hour, a child might read one short book and then do the exercises. But is 1 hour enough? No. An extra hour or so with no time pressure to finish with all the other kids will make it easier to advance. Why not reading at home? Adults do. It's a great way of topping up in the comfort of your home. So that was a paragraph about reason 1. Then a paragraph about reason 2 with detailed evidence. Another great reason for homework is that my parents can help me. Let's suppose they want to help me with my reading. They can sit and listen to me read aloud. If I make a mistake, they can help me. If I do well, they can praise me. And both of us will enjoy the reading. They know what I'm doing and they feel part of my learning. What a great idea. Then paragraph about reason 3. As we get older, the need to work after school becomes more important. In secondary school, homework is vital. So why not start in primary school and get into the routine? It only needs an hour or so, several times a week, and I'll get used to the habit. What a fine preparation for later schooling. Then paragraph 4, with reason 4, a paragraph about reason 4. It is said that repeating something makes the learning stick. I might have picked up on fractions of school with the teacher helping, but can I do it at home? By doing fractions without the teacher and perhaps a little help from mum and dad, I can make sure I'm on top of fractions. Or it might be spelling or vocabulary, to go over it and make sure I've mastered it. Now, there's the possibility of a paragraph of rebuttal. What's wrong with the opposition's case? Not essential, but a good idea to teach. Some people say homework makes you tired, that kids need a break from work, that home should be free of stress. But these people are being lazy and short-sighted. There's nothing wrong with mum and dad being involved. A regular hour or so at night can become a pleasant routine. What's wrong with a little reading before bed? Why not link the work of the day with the more relaxed atmosphere at home? That way, parents are part of the education mission. And the final paragraph must be the conclusion, a summing up of what's been said and a reassertion of the case. To sum up, homework is not the bogeyman some people say. It is actually good for you. It builds on what you do at school, it gets mum and dad involved, it gets me used to the routine, and it helps the learning stick. Homework is good for you. It's important to stress that the introductory paragraph should clearly state a contention or thesis, that each of the paragraphs should have a topic sentence, that inside the body paragraphs there should be evidence supporting the reason of that paragraph, and that the concluding paragraph should sum up the main points of the whole argument. The rebuttal paragraph, as I said, could be regarded as optional. However, the concept of rebuttal needs to be discussed because it's implicit in all argument. So, suggested activities. I suggest workshop an introductory paragraph on a topic like let's banish bullying. This will mean coming up with 3 or 4 reasons against bullying. First, draw attention to the need for a position statement, which is what NAPLAN calls it, or a contention, as I've been calling it. Secondly, workshop a body or reason paragraph on the same topic. This should underline what a topic sentence is and how the rest of the paragraph feeds back to this topic sentence. And finally, workshop a conclusion paragraph on the same topic. This will involve showing how to quickly sum up all the major reasons and end with a reinforcement of the topic. Persuasive devices. Aristotle set out his principles in a treatise called The Art of Rhetoric, circa 330 BC. The word rhetoric actually means the art of the orator. It is little surprise to find that rhetoric is a key part of this discussion. However, there are no less than 60 rhetorical devices, and there's no way you can teach these to children. There are just too many, and some of them are so complicated it's almost impossible to explain. It is important to be selective. Here are the most important. Repetition. Repeating a word or phrase several times to make the point clearer. For example, homework is good for school teachers, homework is good for kids, homework is good for parents, homework is good for everyone. You repeat. The famous rhetorical question, asking a question which is really a statement. For example, but is 1 hour enough? No. But I can do it at home. Then you've got metaphor and simile, comparing something to something else. For example, homework's like eating your vegetables. It may not be your first choice, but it's good for you. That's a simile, of course. Homework gives you bigger mental muscles. By practicing that much, you get really good at the skills. A metaphor. There's analogy, or what Aristotle called parallelism. For example, reading is food for the brain. Schoolwork is full of nutrients. There's emotive language, using words which have strong feelings attached. For example, homework gives you a buzz. Homework is a chance to cuddle up with mum and make a strong, happy connection to school. Homework is fun. Homework is cool. Anecdote. This is going back to the Steve Robinson and Stevenson idea of anecdote as narrative, as storytelling. Anecdote, that's a short story. A short story dropped in to make a point. For example, my cousin was having trouble reading. Then her mum asked for extra home reading and they spent an hour each day working on her reading. Within a term, she'd caught up to the class and was feeling great about reading. Narrative or storytelling is really powerful stuff. And appeal to fear or pride or greed. If you never do any homework, you'll get to high school and it will freak you out. Imagine how terrified of something that other kids are used to. Homework will make you feel great about yourself. It'll make you a master. If you're good at homework, you'll do well and go on to get a great job. Wouldn't you like to be paid a lot? Suggested activities. Workshop each of the one of the rhetorical devices that I've listed, at least those, on a topic like let's banish bullying. Brainstorm examples of each. So, for example, analogy. Bullying is painful, but unlike a bruise, it will not fade away, and on through all the rhetorical devices. Secondly, look at a piece of writing that's full of persuasive devices and analyse them one by one. 2 sample pieces, by the way, are provided with this webinar, so that you can have a look at those whenever you like. And finally, take a topic like it is wrong to damage the environment and think of all the emotive words and phrases that could be used to persuade an audience to agree with it. Finally, some do's and don'ts. Like all types of writing, argument can be well done or badly done. Here are a few reminders of tricks and pitfalls. Do make your opinion or contention very clear in the first paragraph. Make sure that every body paragraph has only one major reason or argument. Make sure every reason is backed up by evidence of some kind. Make sure there's a conclusion which restates the contention, and use rhetorical or language devices to appeal to the audience. Some don'ts, finally. Don't fail to announce the contention or leave it to the reader to guess what you think. Don't mix up the reasons or spread them across paragraphs. Don't assert opinions without any evidence. Don't get angry and abusive in an attempt to persuade, and don't fail to sum up at the end. I trust you found this a useful introduction to the key issues in teaching persuasive writing. Thank you for your time.
Fantastic. Thanks, Richard. I hope that was really useful to everyone out there, as there's some really great insights. As you've noticed, Richard made some references to Write Time section of Ziptales, which offers explicit teaching of a wide range of text types. The lesson How to Write an Argument is prime material and comes with worksheets as well, so make sure you check that out. Now, there was also 2 sample persuasive pieces talked about, one for the middle years and one for the older children. Now, these will be sent to you tomorrow along with your PD certificate and a replay to this webinar as well. So with the PD certificates, if you're sitting around in a classroom with your fellow teachers, make sure you email us, support@ziptales.com, and we'll make sure that everyone who's there sitting with you for this live presentation can get a PD certificate. Now, unfortunately, we can only give it to teachers who are watching the live version. If you're watching the replay at the moment, unfortunately, we can't give that to you. Now, Richard's staying with us for another couple of minutes to answer any questions that you might have. Now, I know we're running out of time, so we'll try and get through as many as we can. One of the main questions that has been popping up that I've seen, just asking about the slides. Now, the slides for the PowerPoint presentation we will also give to you tomorrow as the link along with your webinar replay. So, Richard, got a couple of questions here. We got one from Felicity in Victoria, I think she's from. What else in Ziptales offers information about how to write an argument?
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, look, I mentioned Write Time, and Steve just referred to it again. That's obviously a really key part of the of what we offer. But look, you should look at the Australian curriculum section of Ziptales 2. Australian Curriculum English, because we have, I'm trying to remember the lessons, things like, there's a lesson on arguments, on topic sentences, on using emotive language. There's one on objective and subjective language, so some goodies there. And also in the Advanced Library, which is suitable for children in 5 and 6, not for the younger kids, there are 3 full argument texts: computer games, body image, animal rights. So, so quite a lot of stuff there.
Yep, fantastic. Hopefully that answers your question, Felicity. Now, we've got one from Frank asking, do you think debates are a good way of helping kids understand this type of writing?
Absolutely, Frank. That's a really good point. I think it's a great idea. By getting kids into teams, obviously they need to be trained for it a bit, but teams on a suitable topic, and then having them work up the arguments, 2 teams working up those arguments, and then presenting them orally to try and persuade the other kids in the class. You're modelling exactly the same sort of thing that an argument piece is. So it's a brilliant idea, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Marianne asking, you make a lot of the pathos idea, if that's how you pronounce that properly. How much is acceptable?
Yes, indeed. A good point, Marianne. It's important to explain to kids that the pathos idea is a really important add-on, but it can't substitute for good logical argument. Logos and ethos have to dominate. An overly emotional case can seem foolish. So it's a matter of balance, of course, but it's important to show them that feelings and emotions are significant.
Very good. Now, we're getting quite a few questions in. I don't know, we'll do 1 or 2 more, Richard?
Sure, yep.
What about, we've got one here from Julie. What about topic sentences? topics. Do you want to expand on that, Richard?
Yeah, absolutely essential, Julie. Essential. I would suggest that you make it a matter of the kids checking every paragraph they write, in an argument piece, obviously, to verify that the topic sentence is there. Normally the first sentence. It's only very sophisticated writers who can put it in the middle or at the end. Normally the topic sentence is at the beginning, and make sure it's there, that it makes sense, and that it connects to everything else. It's a really important point, Julie.
Yeah, and we've got another question in from Martin, who's asking, what about the issue of fact versus opinion? Yes,
Martin, good idea. Another key idea to build up their minds. I would suggest you have a popular opinions list as an activity, and so get all the opinions on one side of the board, I guess, and then contrast that with known facts on the same subjects to make it really clear that the ones on the left are fine, but they can't be considered valid arguments. This distinction is really critical to good persuasive writing.
Fantastic. Thanks, Richard. Now, we do have a few more questions, but unfortunately, I think we're well over time already. For those who didn't get their questions answered live, we'll make sure that Richard, probably tomorrow, will reply to you. We do have your questions marked down, and he will be replying via email tomorrow. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this webinar today. I hope it's been quite insightful for you. And thank you, Richard. It's a lovely presentation, as always.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thanks, everyone. Good to have you there.
All right, thank you.
All the best.
All the best. Bye.